Alright, this is the video log for my upcoming Lake Superior crossing. So guys, it's been about 5 years since my last trip. My last trip was the crossing of Lake Michigan back in 2012, summer 2012. I think I completed it around Labor Day. So anyway, since that day I've been kind of saying that I'll never do anything as stupid or as crazy as that again. But 5 years down the road, here I am. Standing on my deck looking at all the gear that I have set up for the trip. I think I'm pretty much ready at this point. Right now is middle of July, and I'm just kind of gauging the weather to see when I'm going to get something a decent set of days for doing this trip. And I was waiting for some gear as well to make sure that I have everything that I needed to complete this trip safely. Anyway, so here I am at the deck looking at all the equipment. Gonna go through it and explain my reasoning for using what I got in front of me. So let's take a look at what we got. This is my Kayak wilderness system, 17-foot boat, Tempest 170. Bought it way back for my first crossing. Bought it off Craigslist. Did a pretty good job. It uses a skeg. It does not use a rudder. It can get a little bit annoying, especially out in the middle of the lake, as you constantly have to make adjustments. So depending on the wind direction and waves and all that stuff. It was a bit frustrating, but there was really no good place to mount a rudder on this thing. I just didn't want to deal with it, drilling holes or any of that stuff, so I just left it as is. So it'll work just fine for this trip as well. Modifications wise, what I did on the first trip as well as this one I'm going to use are these stabilizers. Built them myself. They worked extremely well for my first trip. One point of failure were these aluminum rods that I used in the first trip, which were extremely thin. They were not really designed for the task, so it didn't work out as well and ended up breaking right at the end of the trip. And then it was kind of a risky moment, but everything worked out well, no problems. On this trip, I actually chose legitimate aluminum rods. Let me see if it actually tells you what the thickness is. It doesn't. But this tubing is extremely thick and will stand all kinds of pressure on it. So I don't know if you can tell what the thickness is, but this is very sturdy. I think I do need to make one adjustment before the trip, is to make it a little bit shorter. This is way too long. They're way out there, and just, I think it'll cause a little bit too much flex. So I'll trim it down, which will put my width to right about here. Give me enough space to be able to paddle properly, but without having it be way too long. Plus, this should make it a little bit sturdier. Reusing the original flagpole holders. I might have another backup set with me just in case. Contemplating before going on the trip, and that's probably going to be about next week, of moving this particular mount to right about here. The difficulty with that is that there is a compartments separating section right in the middle through here, so I'll have to drill a little bit through it and then seal it off so there are no leaks between the main compartment and the rear one. Not that that would be an issue anyway, but that's one thing I'll have to do. If I do this, I'm going to keep this particular mount on there just in case, an extra one. In case something goes wrong, I'll have some way of stabilizing the boat if I have to get back into it. So that's another to-do before going on the trip. The light mounts in the back and in the front, they're suction cupped on and Gorilla taped down. It's for these particular lights here. This is the clear one is the rear light. It stays up vertically like so. So you mount it on and screw it on like so. I'm not gonna do it all the way, but you get the point. The front one mounts horizontally like this, so we can get our the lights in place. Again, mounting it on. It'll point like this. And I'll kick this off. If I leave at nighttime, I'm going to kick it off for the night paddle, and that should then transition to daytime, which will not matter at that point. So I have the lights on, should be good. Again, if I start at nighttime, probably around 3 or 4 a.m., leaving Isle Royale on the way to Copper Harbor. The shipping lane is closer to Copper Harbor, to mainland, than it's to the island. So if I start out at nighttime, it gives me plenty of time to run down the batteries and be safe at nighttime. Shouldn't expect to see any ships anywhere near Isle Royale. But if I do, I'll be visible to them. And during the daytime, it's just a matter of being as visible as possible. Color the boat, paddles, all that stuff. Moving on, I just recently received my float bags, which will be sitting in both compartments in the front and the back. Wild Wasser, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But there it is. That fills up the rear compartment quite well. That way, if it does spring a leak of any sort, there's not much to fill out this particular compartment, keeping me a little bit safer. I might need to migrate a little bit more in the back if necessary, if I need to put in more gear in there. Got the same thing here in the front. Pop this open. I have one in the front. Also, I might need to migrate it just a little bit more forward so I can put some gear in the front there. And the gear is not to just have gear in the boat, but more to weigh it down. I noticed that on my previous paddles, that the lighter the boat, it just seems to go all over the place. To me, it felt like it was harder to steer it. And it was easily moved by wind. So I felt that the more that it's loaded, not overloaded, but loaded, it was easier to kind of keep your track without any issues. So we'll see what will go in the front. Anyway, let's talk about safety. So I obviously have my life jacket. It's going to play kind of an important role. I recently picked this up at my local sporting goods store. It has pockets for all my gear that I need to have on me. So in those pockets, I'll go through my safety devices. But I'll have a knife just in case if I need to cut myself loose of anything. I'll have that on me. Probably will have some of the signaling stuff, the kit that you see there to the right. I'll have some here after the fact. I was making decent progress the entire time. So with that said, I finally picked up this Garmin, and let's take a look at it. So let's unlock it. But what some benefits that it has, let's go through these. Most importantly, it allows you to bi-directionally communicate, so you can send out text messages to your loved ones. So you can say, hey, how is everything going? Am I on the right track, as an example? You can say any ships in the vicinity, things like that. So if your friends or wife or whoever are keeping track of your location, they can also tell you that, hey, by the way, there's a freighter coming your way. Keep on the lookout or something like that. So anyway, it allows you to bi-directionally communicate, which is great. It does this through the Iridium satellite system, which is, I think, truly global, as opposed to what I think Global Star is what Spot uses. But anyway, with that said, it allows you to do the tracking as well. So you can do 10-minute tracking, or if you pay more, you can do 2-minute tracking, depending on the plan that you select. I opted out to go with a 10-minute tracking, which should be just fine. Let's see, you can set waypoints, so you can set a direction for yourself, a path that you need to follow, which is great. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using that or not, but anyway, you can check the weather. One cool thing is that you can go by your location where you're at, and you can check your weather, and you can also do a marine forecast, which is really sweet. I think you have to pay a little bit extra for that, but again, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you have no internet connection, this is the next best thing, your option to pick up what the local forecast looks like. And that might really save your life at some point. Aside from that, you can pull up the map. And this is probably the most important feature for me. I can pull up the map and say, alright, here's where I am. And if you zoom out, you can see even better where you at in relationship to everything else. Okay, so that's kind of an important feature for me. So as I'm making progress, I can kind of go across and see, all right, cool. This is where I'm at. This is how much distance I have left, and so on and so forth. Awesome. And I can also see what my speed is, how I'm progressing. Very cool. One downside to this device, which should be fine. I don't really have an issue with it in that regard, but it does not really use any kind of regular normal battery, so you have to charge it on this built-in battery. It's supposed to last up to like 100 hours or something like that. Really crazy if you're just doing normal functions and checking in. So that should be more than enough, and I'm not gonna like check my map every 2 seconds or anything like that either. So that will work. And the only other thing for the SOS, it's kind of a nifty feature, but if you do need to call SOS, you can flip this little guy, press the SOS button, but you will need to confirm that you're in fact in trouble through the interface. So if you go into it and you go to the SOS function, what you're going to get is a confirmation from, I think it's Geos that alerts you, and they will say that, are you actually in trouble? So they want to have a false report. They will confirm with you that you are in fact in trouble. So you have to engage and say, yep, I'm in trouble. Get the helicopter out. So there's that. So let's go ahead and shut it down. Listen to the funny noises. Okay, so there's that. Again, that the Garmin will be on me, the spot will be on the boat. And the reason for this is that in case something god awful happens and I get separated from the boat, at least that will be tracked, and people that are watching me, they'll be able to tell that there is a separation of myself and the boat, which could kind of give them a clue that something's up. In case I'm not able to communicate, what else? Another thing is that the spot will be on the boat, so I'll be able to get that tracking map going as well. So I'll have both devices on and tracking, and it'll be easier because I don't have to pull out of my pockets or anything like that. It'll just be right in front of me, checking in and getting clear satellite signal, and I'll be able to say I'm okay, versus pulling up the Garmin every 2 minutes. What else? The harness, I don't have it here on the deck right now, but I do have a harness, kind of like a leash. It was actually a boogie board leash that I used to strap into my paddle, my main paddle. So in case I slipped or whatever, it fell out of my hands, I can get it right back. I will be using that as well. And this is my primary paddle, nothing special. None of that carbon fiber crap, way too expensive. It will be just fine using this aluminum paddle. You can adjust the angle of how it's connected, and I can do it one-handed, but the reason why I picked up this paddle is that it's actually fairly light, and the shape of the paddles are very aggressive, so it allows you to really take a nice scoop of water and propel yourself through the water. And it was fairly cheap. I think I picked this up for about 20 or 25 bucks, if I'm not mistaken. So, this is solid. Can't break it. Again, carbon fiber, you could break it. Potential for cracks. This one you can't. If you are breaking aluminum, you must be the Incredible Hulk. But anyway, if something does go wrong with it, I'll be able to use my backup paddle. So this is usually strapped in right in front of the boat, right up here under the straps. But the other reason why I picked up this particular paddle is the color of the tips. Bright yellow, again, visibility, safety, kind of an important one. So that was the other reason why I picked this specific one out of other ones. Other ones I think were like black or some other colors, neutral colors that would blend in with the water. This will stick out. Alright, let's kind of keep going further. Got my safety kits, the crappy safety kits of flares and whatnot that you're required to have, I think, on any boat. But might save somebody's life, but from my experience that flares, unless somebody's actually watching you, people won't even see that you shot out a flare, especially if you're a distance out. So I'm not sure how good that would do. Same thing with the horn. Most of the time people are out there pleasure cruising and fishing, and they're not really looking out for anybody's safety. So you have it just in case. It might save your life. From my previous experience, that didn't do jack. But we'll have it on me anyway, just in case. Okay, another safety feature is, let me explain the whole reasoning behind my stabilizers. It's not that I cannot roll the boat. If I need to, I can do it. But let's say that the weather kind of picks up and it goes against my favor, and you do fall out, right? You do tip over and you can't get back in. You can't roll it back. Getting into a kayak when the weather sucks, good luck. Good luck. I've tried it, and it is extremely difficult to do so in normal conditions, let alone when there's there are waves crashing on top of you. So I said, you know what, the hell with that. I'm not even going to risk it. I'm going to put on these stabilizers. And again, they worked out extremely well for me. One benefit that they gave me is that I didn't really have to focus on balancing myself too much. All I have to do is just paddle forward. And as waves came across, especially at nighttime, I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't have to worry about it. I just kept the kayak in the direction where I needed to go. My boat was always straight, because as soon as the kayak started to pitch, they would dig into the water. Yes, they would slow me down a little bit, but kept me straight and kept me safe. So I will be using them again. I don't care what anybody says. That's it. For me, that worked out. The other reason why I picked these up, aside from the whole keep myself upright thing, is again, getting back into the boat. Very difficult to do in wavy conditions. This, if something does happen, you can just get back in without any kind of worry. So that works out. That does work out for me. Kind of already lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But anyway, so I built these out. They were great. Hopefully they will last the trip. Should be fine. I'm not too worried about it. And then they flex. So if it was like a legit kayak made out of fiberglass or whatever, that will probably crack. But since this is a plastic kayak, it kind of gives under the motion, and holds in there pretty well. So I don't see that being an issue of any sort. So there is that. The rear compartment here, this is where I'm going to put the battery for my pump. Alright, so I'm going to use a small motorcycle lawnmower battery, put it in here, make sure it's nice and watertight, run the cables off of it to this little guy. This is a water pump, a marine water pump, that will be sitting right behind my seat. I think that's going to be probably the lowest point that it can be at. So it'll sit right behind my seat. I gotta glue that sucker down with some liquid nails, and then this tube is going to protrude out of my skirt. I thought about drilling through the kayak, but I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to poke more holes in it. But this tube will protrude through my skirt. I think that'll be fine. Should be fine. The only concern there is that if I need to bail, if that's going to hold me in place. So what I might do is drill through the separation there, the bulk separator, and poke it out through this rear compartment. Custom my way through it without having to cut through the boat itself. I can just, cut through this rubber gasket, the cover. So I might do that instead, and I think that would be a smarter choice than sticking it out of my skirt, which would be kind of a little dangerous, I think. So that's yet to be done, almost there. But the whole point behind that is that if you do go over and you get a bunch of water in a boat, I don't know if anybody had that situation before, trying to pump out the water with a hand pump. Yeah, okay. Doesn't work. Okay, it does work, but my God, by the time you're done pumping the water out with your hands, with your arms, and let's say this is calm water, I've done it in the calm conditions, but by the time you're done, you have no energy left. Your strength is completely gone. It takes a lot of energy to pump out that much water out of a kayak. So no freaking way am I going to do that. So I'm going to rig up this water pump, and I'm going to engage it using this watertight switch. This little guy right here, waterproof rocker. Just a little bit of wiring to do here. But I'm going to engage that and suck the water out in about 30 seconds, the whole boat. If it's completely full, it will suck it out in about 30 seconds. Okay, I use the same pump on my Zodiac, and it works extremely well. It works miracles. So I will have that in the boat, and that'll be ready to go. Again, in case of emergency, if I need to get back in the boat and keep going, I'll be able to get that water out there in no time and just continue on tracking where I need to go. So that's that. Some of the other things, let's talk through that. In case my hands cramp up and I can't hold the paddle, thought of that example as well. What do? Brought on these workout hooks. If you guys work out quite often, you know what these are. But you put these on your wrists, and then this allows you to grab a bar and take the pressure off your fingers, so you're not really having to grip it too much. So in that situation, all you have to really focus on is the paddling piece. So let's stop a little quick. Get my hand in there. So if you have these guys on your hands like this, and you have your paddle like that, okay, I don't really necessarily need to hold it on too tight. So all I need to worry about is the motion of paddling forward and back, right, as I'm pulling the paddle towards me and away from me. So as I'm paddling, that's all I really need to worry about. I don't really need to think about gripping it too hard. So if I have this should be good in case I run into an emergency where, you know, I get a cramp or I'm not able to hold my paddle too well. Might not happen. It might. Thought of that, and I'll be using that on this trip. Again, only if I have to. I'm not going to put it on right from the beginning, but only if I have to, I will use it. Got my compass. I mean, not a compass. I mean binoculars. Cheapo little binoculars, small enough. I think these were like $8 from Harbor Freight. Do a wonderful job of checking to see where I'm at, where I need to go. Keep a lookout for other boats and stuff like that. So I brought it with me. Not sure how helpful that will be, but it'll be on me. Other safety things, the lights, again, visibility. I'll have this on my head so I can shine a light. If I have anything in front of me that I need to look at, I will be able to turn this on. It has a bright white light and a red light for either one, so if you don't want to go blind, you can switch to red mode and continue paddling. This thing is waterproof. I have another backup with me as well. Signaling lights, these I think can go for like a mile or something like that, where you can kind of get somebody's attention. If there's an emergency, I'll have 2 of those for redundancy. Got my cool watch. This is a present for my aunt. This watch is awesome. Not only does it track your altitude, temperature, things like that, but the most important thing is that it has a compass feature. So using the compass, let's go to the mode of compass. It will tell you what direction you're heading in. Timer has all this other stuff, but most importantly, let's go to the compass. Stopwatch, timer, alarm, sun. It tells you what your battery level is as well. I thought it was this. Kind of hard to do with one hand. Oh, here we go, right here. Altimeter, compass. So now I have my heading. I can see right now I'm looking south, and I can check my direction as I'm moving around, which is awesome in case my compass does fail, and all fails with my Garmin device. I still have a way to navigate where I need to go. Again, clear conditions, that will not be an issue. I don't think that will be an issue, but in case it's foggy or something like that, this is the only way to track. Okay, and this is the only way. The compass is the only way to track if you get lost somewhat, get disoriented. Other safety features, I opted to go with a wetsuit, a really thick wetsuit, something I already owned. I'm not going to use a dry suit. Dry suits can break, can leak. I mean, some people will use them, great, more power to you. I'm using what I have. and I've been tracking the water temperature all summer long. Right now the surface temperature is approximately anywhere from 45 to 55 depending where you're at. In those temperatures, this wetsuit is more than enough to keep me going for quite a bit of time. And the reason why I say that, this is a 7mm suit. Comes in two pieces, so I have my long johns underneath and I have my top, which has a hoodie. So your core is covered and protected by 14mm of neoprene, and this is a open cell neoprene, not closed cell. If you know what that means, is that it performs a heck of a lot better than closed cell suits, and I use this for spearfishing. I'll be using that on my trip, just to keep me safe from cold temperatures. Now the only downside to this little guy is I'm gonna have to keep myself nice and cool. So as I'm paddling across 50 miles of cold ass water, I'll also need to make sure that I'm not overheating. So I'll be cooling myself on a regular basis, just getting some water out of the lake and pouring it on myself, keep myself cool, drinking plenty of fluids, but it'll be a balance of keeping myself out of water in case something happens, staying warm, as well as keeping myself cool as I am paddling across. It doesn't come with socks, as you can see, so I'll be using two pairs of socks. I'll be using the smaller set underneath, they'll be right on my feet, and then a thicker set right over that, so that way I'm getting protection on my feet as well as the rest of my body. Very important. So dual protection. One other side benefit of having this wetsuit is that as opposed to a dry suit, if you get water into dry suits, your boat anchor, you'll go straight down, and no thanks, I don't want that. You know, unless you have a life jacket on, all that, I think you still will be struggling, aside from freezing your ass off as well if your suit begins to take a leak in a dry suit. Wetsuit, this little guy, you couldn't sink me if you wanted to. It will take 35 to 40 additional pounds to sink me in this wetsuit alone. So you're like a human bobber when you put this thing on. I'll take that. That'll be good. So in addition to your life jacket, which is great for visibility, by the way, nice and orange, with these two on, you could not sink me even if you drive a freighter on top of me. Joking, of course, but you get the point, is that this thing floats like no tomorrow. Due to the thickness, to its buoyancy, I'll be safe there. So again, the only risk I'll have in that regard is the temperature of the water, but I'll be closely monitoring that. And I pretty much said that if it's anywhere below 40 degrees, that's a no-go. I'm not doing it. I'm not crossing the lake in those temperatures. You don't have a whole lot of time when you fall into that kind of water. Especially when it might take a little bit longer to get safety teams out to where you're at. But in this guy, I feel fairly comfortable being in the water for an extended period of time, especially if you're moving. I've spearfished in, I think, 50-degree water in this suit before, and I was hot. I was really hot. So I'm not too worried about being in the water for an extended period of time in this little guy. So I should be good. As long as my feet are warm, my head is covered, I'll be good to go. So my only concern will be getting hot. And I thought about keeping the long johns on and keeping the top off, but I think that would be kind of a risky move, because if something does happen, you won't have a lot of time to throw that on. It's not exactly something you do in an emergency situation. As far as tips and tricks, the way to put this thing on, since it's an open cell suit, you don't exactly slide into it. What I use is shaving cream, shaving foam. Put that over your body and over the suit, and then you can slip onto it extremely easily. So I'll be bringing that with me on the trip. What else? I think that's really about it. So at this point right now is just monitoring the weather, seeing how things go, and making the right choice for heading out there. And if the weather sucks and stars don't align with with other things, you know, you always call things off. If you're not comfortable 100%, you don't go, and that's my main rule. So with that said, aside from all that, I'm feeling pretty confident right now and getting everything set up. Then it's just going to be a matter of driving up there, which is kind of a long trip. I live here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so that's going to take me, I want to say, 8 to 10 hours, if not longer, to get up there. Then take the ferry over. That's going to probably take another 4 to 6 hours. I don't know how long that whole trip is, but by the time I get there, you know, weather can definitely change. So my plan for that was that if it does change, I stay there, I camp there overnight. If I have to do multiple nights, I'll do that. But track for the best weather, and only when the window is just right will I take off. And again, preferably at nighttime. Take off at nighttime. That way you can get the crappy part out of the way. Then the sun can come up, and you know, you'll be more energized versus of paddling your ass all day long and then getting into the night when you're already tired. So that was my my approach to that. But anyway, there's that. Can't really speak for anything else right now. Oh, I'll be using the GoPro on this trip. This is the Hero 5. Got extra batteries, extra memory cards. I'll be using this little guy to kind of record the trip. Might bring in an extra camera just in case. Take some pictures of the wildlife if I see any. But aside from that, signing off. Alright guys, any questions, let me know in the comments down below. See ya.